Hello there, Parth Sharma this side, bringing you the chess classics. I'm continue looking at the 1984-85 World Chess Championship match between Anatoly Karpov and Garry Kasparov. So going into game 48, Karpov was leading 5 to 2 against Kasparov, but he wasn't able to deliver the knockout punch in the last 20 games, and it looked like he was running out of gas. Kasparov, on the other hand, was playing some good chess in those last 20 games, and it was quite evident that he was up there for the fight and won't go down that easily. He won games 32 and 47 quite convincingly, and suddenly it looked like he could wipe out the deficit and get his own sixth win before Karpov could. That possibility wasn't out of the window, and something very nasty happened after game 48 as we jump into the game. Kasparov with white pieces, Karpov with black. Kasparov opens with 1e4. Well, looking at 1e4 is always a delight on the chessboard. e4 games are always amazing. They are all memorable. They're not like dull draws which happened with 1d4, and they always offer some fight. So let's have a look. e5, knight f3, and now knight f6. So Karpov is playing Petrov. Kasparov himself played Petrov against him in some of the games of this match. Knight takes e5. You first kick the knight away, and then you take the pawn on e4. White continues its development. d4, d5, bishop d3, knight c6. There's a famous Brits game between Smirin and Anand, where Anand takes about 1 minute and 43 seconds to make his fourth move, and the similar position appears in that. And you take that much time in an Armageddon game where you are running 1 minute short right from the start, and you take 2 minutes or about 2 minutes on fourth move. That is something unheard of. Well, that's not from this game. So we come here and castling bishop e7, c4, and the move that Kasparov played against Karpov in the game 37 of this World Chess Championship match in 1984 was knight b4. Then Karpov responded with bishop e2. Then came dc4, bishop c4, castles, knight c3, knight d6, bishop b3, and after bishop f6, Karpov had his chances there, but the game ended in a draw. He missed one winning move at move 34, and he didn't have anything after that, and the game ended in a draw. So after c4, Karpov surprisingly plays knight f6, which isn't bad either. Still a playable continuation. So we continue the game. Knight c3, castles, h3, stopping bishop g4, bishop g4, d takes c, bishop takes c, knight a5, bishop d3, and bishop e6. So he's trying to develop this bishop through this side, which isn't a bad idea either. Possibly trying to play knight c4, but that possibility isn't out. It is there, but there is a trick here. If white continues with bishop e3, well, that could be a positional mistake, because after knight c4, queen c2, that bishop goes, and black has two bishops and a bishop pair, really powerful. White does not, and this loose pawn on e3 can be a potential target. Not a good ideal position at all. So after bishop e6, he doesn't hurry with his development, so he plays rook e1. That's a good move. There comes knight c6, and now a3. Well, you can take d4 pawn if you don't like your knight. Let's say knight takes, but then comes knight takes d4, And if you don't like your queen, then you can recapture the knight. And bishop takes h7. See you later. You don't want to go into this continuation. The queen is hanging. So after a3, a6. So basic intention is to stop this and to play queen d7. Bishop f4. The same thing would happen if knight takes. Queen d7. Now queen is protected. And now a good move in this position, good tactical move. If white plays queen d2 in this position, then rook a d8, pressing on this loose d pawn. Rook a d1 indirectly defends the pawn. Queen c8, bishop c2, knight takes d, knight takes, and c5, exploiting the spin and eliminating the weakness on c7, which it was bishop attacking that, and the position would have been playable for black. However, after queen d7, Kasparov pounces on this opportunity and plays knight e5. And there are two possible ways to play this position, but you want the position that was played in the game. But what happens if you play the position which wasn't played in the game, and that was queen takes d4? Obviously queen was attacked. But then comes knight takes c6. No time to capture because of bishop takes h7, and this queen is loose. You see, b takes, discover check, and you pick the queen. Queen is hanging. So after knight takes c6, black can play queen takes f4, but this also loses. Knight takes e7 check, king h8. This knight on e7 actually looks like it's trapped, but there is a very nice tactical shot here. Rook takes e6 from white, and this is brilliant because after f takes e6, bishop takes h7 is a monster indeed. If king takes, then queen d3 check wins. If knight takes, then knight g6 fork. Thanks for coming, buddy. And if queen d6, queens get off, and white is a whole piece up in this position. He will try to bring this bishop back and play knight g6. White is totally winning in this position. So understandably, after this position, Karpov takes the knight on e5. That's a very good decision indeed. D takes e5, knight d5, knights trade off, bishop takes, and now queen c2, putting a lot of pressure on this 7th pawn. White would like to interchange the positions of its queen and bishop. It would like to have queen on d3 and bishop on c2, or rather possibly at b1, and that would be too hot to handle for black. Now here is an interesting position. Of course, threat on h7. What happens if h6 is played? Then comes rook a c1, attacking the c7 pawn, c5, and queen e2. Just as we talked about, bishop b1, queen c2, and reinstating this threat. Queen h7, g6 won't be possible because this pawn would be too loose. So after queen c2, g6 defends this diagonal, but this creates another weakness in the position, and that is these dark squares. Now with this move there is a hole in black's position, and that is this h6 square, which can be exploited in the long term. Rook a d1, placing the rook against the queen, And now black also has two possibilities here. Let's have a look at the moves like queen c6, which I assumed Kasparov would have expected this to be played. Because after queen takes, bishop c4, bishop c5, b4, bishop b6, and after bishop g5, although both players have bishop pair, the difference in the position is this e pawn, which is so annoying for the black, and it can't easily be eliminated, whereas this pawn can easily rip apart the position on the king side, the fragile king side of black. And black's bishop pair, on the other hand, is, although looking towards the white king, it isn't supported by the other pieces. And whereas these rooks standing right into the middle of the board, the bishop already radiating fire, his pawn is somewhat paralyzed, can't move, might see bishop h6 or f6, just caging this king here. White is in the hot seat already there. But still, queen c6 would have been playable, but positionally not ideal. So after rook a d1, he plays c6. Then comes bishop h6, attacking the rook. Rook f d8, and now a cute shot by white. e6. Just little cute for black to handle. We'll see the effect of this move. If bishop takes e6, then comes bishop takes g6, and black's position is already hopeless. If queen e8, getting away from the attack of rook, then comes bishop takes h7 check, king h8, and another tactical shot by white. Rook takes e6, and if f takes e6, queen c3 is mate in 4. Because this pawn was here, could have played f6, but after rook takes e6, this pawn is actually here, and e5, well, it just can be taken that easily. Another possible try after bishop takes g6 is to give up your queen, but then again comes bishop takes h7 check, intermediate move, king h8, rook takes the queen, rook takes d1 check, queen takes d1, king takes h7, and queen h5, rook and bishop against queen, and it's queen which will win because the king is so much exposed, it can be caught at any moment. So again, after e6, Karpov plays f takes e6, and now bishop takes g6. Of course, pawn takes, then this is mate in 2, so you don't want that. But this position, black could have been able to defend it. Let's say the moves like bishop f6 is covering this diagonal and also providing support by its other pieces like this, and also standing here not offering the trade. Then comes bishop e4, so bishop tucks back, king h8, rook d2, rook g8, rook de2, queen f7. White still has the advantage, but black is at least able to coordinate well, bringing his forces towards his king side to defend its vulnerable king. That could have been another possibility. But after bishop takes g6, Karpov plays bishop f8, offering the trade of bishops, and which helps white positionally because this bishop could have been a very good defender of black's position. But giving up this bishop, and after bishop e4, of course bishop can't be taken because of the pin, and well, queen would attack, but you just take the bishop off. And also the rook is attacking the queen, already threats of queen g4. You can see a rook lift in the near future, everything would fall apart. And without this dark square bishop, black already looks in a heap of trouble. Well, there are two tries again in this position. What if black plays king h8 here? Then comes rook lift, rook d3, rook g8, rook f3, queen g7 threatening mate, and after g3 white's king is totally safe, but the weaknesses on e6 and pressure on h7 will give way sooner rather than later. So after bishop e4, rook f7 was played, trying to solidify the position and also defending on h7. Rook e3, the rook left is here, with the other rook left. Was still very powerful indeed. Rook g7, and now rook dd3, fantastic move indeed. Kasparov is right on the attack. Rook f8, trying to bring his forces together to shield this king, but it doesn't seem like it would be enough because there is no pawn cover and white king is totally safe. And there are positional weaknesses in this here in this position because this bishop is pinned somewhat, it cannot recapture the bishop. Rook g3, and if black isn't careful enough, let's say if he plays rook f7, then bishop takes h7 is crushing, bang on the spot, can't be taken because of the pin. And if king f8, then queen c5 crashes through, already hopeless. So after rook g3, king h8 is somewhat forced in this position, and queen c3, and this double pin is very nasty for black here. The bishop on d5 is pinned, the rook on g7 is pinned, can't move, there's already too much pressure here. The rook is also looking at this rook. It is very difficult for black to play here. Karpov plays rook f7 here, and Kasparov plays rook d to e3. Well, at first glance it looks like bishop takes d5 would have been a better move. Let's see what happens. Then comes e takes d, rook d e3, and king g8. Well, why did I dive into king g8? That I'll tell you. Because here, if you play d4, then there is another beautiful tactical shot. Queen takes d4, boom! And if queen takes, then rook e8 is mate in 4. Just try to bring your rooks and it will gobble up each one of them and it would be mate. This is one of those tactical traps that in blitz games you set up and players tend to fall in. This would have been decisive very quickly. Even after king g8, the position is already very hopeless for black because there's so much activity here for white, and position already looks very fragile. Queen e5 is coming soon, and this pin, if rook takes, then this rook joins the party on g3, and the position doesn't look very promising indeed. So after rook d3, king g8, obviously bishop takes h7 doesn't work now because the king will take, but here Kasparov played queen e5. Again he could play bishop takes d5 here, then e takes, and now rook takes g7 check, rook takes g7, queen e5, queen d8, rook f3, and white still stands better in this position. It could have been playable, but just in the gist of looking at this game, I would like to share each and every analysis of every possible continuation here. So king g8 played, queen e5, queen c7, rook takes g7, and we will see mass exchanges. Bishop takes e6 check, queen takes, rook takes e6. Karpov releases the tension around his king. He's a pawn down, and with 3 against 1 majority on the king side, Kasparov would like to push his king side pawns as far as possible. And Karpov would also like to do the same, but remember he's a pawn down, so he would have a lot more pressure than Kasparov. Rook d7, so trying to generate some counterplay, and Kasparov could have started to push his king side pawns here. Well, let's say g4 in this position, and if rook d2, then b4 and everything is fine. Rook e3, whatever black plays, and with the trade of rooks, white will win quite easily. So after g4, king f7, rook e3, everything is secure. b4 coming next, and yeah, white stands solid in this position. But yes, he was worried about rook d2, and understandably after rook d7 he played b4. And still, if rook d3, then rook e3, and protects this pawn and offers the rook trade. Black would like to avoid that, but it can be played. King f7, rook e3, rook tucks back, and possible continuation in this position could have been rook d5 here. But then comes g4, c5, b takes, rook takes, king g2, b5, rook d3, king e7, f4, a5, king f3, rook c8. After rook b3, controlling the b pawn, white starts to roll his majority on the king side. Black can also run its pawns down the board here after rook b8, but the extra pawn of white will be a decisive factor here. 3 against 1 probably doesn't stand a chance. So after rook e3, Karpov plays rook d1, check. King h2 the only move. Rook c1, g4, and if you look at the position here and see the move c5 here, let's have a look at the moves like c5. Black could have played c5 in this position. But then comes rook d3, king e7, b takes, rook takes, king g3, b5, f4, a5, king f3, rook c8, and after rook b3 the game would have transposed into the previous variation that we saw, and again that would also be better for white in that case also, because of his extra pawn on the king side. But after g4, Karpov plays b5, so he's trying to solidify his queen side, try to create a passed pawn, let's say playing c5, and this is taken, then rook takes, and then a5, b4 sort of stuff. Then black would remain with this passed b pawn here. That could have been playable. And here one of the simplest moves for white to play was rook f3, check, and there are two possible ways to play in this position. Now, what's the purpose of playing rook f3 check? Well, the purpose is that to look at the black's next move and to attack according to the black's decision. Black can come to either e file or come to g file. If he comes to e file, then we attack to this loose h pawn. Rook f5, rook c3, rook h5, rook takes a3, rook takes h7, check, king d6, and g5. It would be very difficult to stop this g pawn, and with 3 passed pawns, white is winning nevertheless. And if he decides to stay on the g file, Then we play rook d3, and after c5 b takes, rook takes. Then we play rook d7 check, king g8, and after rook a7 and rook c6 defending the pawn, white can bring this king to shepherd his king side pawns or this king side pawns, and also to eliminate one of those extra pawns that are lying here. The job of this king would simply be to run these pawns down with the help of his own, and the position would be too elementary for white to win. Instead, after b5 he goes for f4, which isn't bad either, but this stops rook f3 and it doesn't come with check. The pawn blocks, its own pawn blocks, and that's the difference. And meanwhile, this king also looks a little bit exposed, could be vulnerable to perpetuals, but it's too far away. And now black makes his 40th move, c5, and the game was adjourned here. It was continued the next day, but there were already some backstage activities which were quite tremendous in regard to this match. There were speculations that the length of the match and the subsequent fatigue is causing players to make serious mistakes. Nevertheless, the game continued the next day, and Kasparov plays the sealed move, his 41st move, b takes c5. Rook takes c5, and now rook d3. Now the difference in this position and the position in the analysis that we saw when the pawn was here and rook d3 check was played, rook f3 check was played, is that the king is on f7 instead of g7, which allows black to play king e7. And after king g3, a5, so he's starting to push his majority. Now it's very easy to get excited and go wrong. I appreciate what he played the next, but let's have a look at some other moves. If you play king h4 in this position, that would be a mistake, because after b4, a takes b, f5, rook b5, rook b3 has to be played, king f6, king h5, rook b6, king h6, rook b7 defending the pawn. After h4, king e5, the king, the rook and this pawn are way too strong, and chances are that this rook has to give itself for this pawn. It won't be losing, by the way, because there are 3 connected passed pawns here, or at least this pawn would go, so they would become 3 connected passed pawns, and one of them could become queen, and this rook had to sacrifice itself for one of these pawns, and the position would end in a draw. This would be a draw, not white loss or black loss. Another try after a5, if white tries to play g5, again getting too much excited. Then comes b4, a takes, king g4, rook b5, rook b3 forced, king e6, h4, king f7, f5, king g7, h5, rook b7. Again this position is draw. There is no way that white can get a breakthrough. The rook is always tied up to this pawn, and rook is in perfect position behind the passed pawn, and this game would end in a draw. White's extra pawn will do nothing about it, because this king is in a perfect position to take guard of all these 3 pawns. So after a5, Kasparov plays an absolutely amazing move, in fact a good move in the position, king f3 exclaim, and this is brilliant, because now what he's doing, he's trying to bring his king in order to eliminate this pawn and get 2 pawns up in the position. That's fantastic, because he has 3 against 1 and he's in the charge, and there won't be too much time when you see these pawns run through into the black's heart. Rook b5, rook b3 is forced, and If black plays king e6, well, that would have been another trying to shoulder this king, but that doesn't work too much because after king d4, rook b8, king c5, and this pawn drops. So after rook b3, rook b8, but this doesn't work because after king d5, if you play, let's say h5, they play simple g5. You don't need to take g5 is crushing enough. If black plays king f6, this was the game. Then comes king c5, and again this pawn is dropping. Black certainly cannot do anything. Rook c8 would have been a try, but we would reach the same variation as when black king is on f6 and this pawn will drop. It doesn't matter what happens, this pawn is going. So after king c5, rook e8, Karpov has to say bye bye because this pawn is gone. Now 3 against 1, but still the task isn't over. Black can do something about it. Don't assume too early. White is winning, but will he win? That's the question. Rook e3, and what happens if white plays rook b6 check here? This was in the game. This was not in the game, I should say. In game h4 was played. Then king g7, rook b7 check, king g8, king d4, rook takes h, g5, rook a3, f5, pushing the pawns, rook a8, king d5, rook f8, and after king e6, rook e8 check, simply block with rook, and this is absolutely hopeless for black. He cannot do anything, and it's gone. But after rook e3, Kasparov plays h4, which isn't bad either, but still a very good move. And rook h3, obviously h5 would have been disastrous because of rook b6 check. And let's have a look at that variation. If h5, rook b6 check, king g7, g5, rook f3 attacking the pawn, but it is too late. Rook f6 defends. Rook h3, if you try to grab if you try to grab this pawn, then f5, and if rook takes h4, rook h6, and if you try to grab another pawn, then f6 check, and you lose this pawn. Two connected passers is winning. So after h4, we see rook h3 from Karpov. So he's hunting down the pawn. h5, rook h4. Now Karpov is getting very tricky here, and it's very easy again to go wrong, because if you play any other moves, any silly moves, then things can turn ugly. But what was played in the game and what is one of the main variations that are suggested, both are winning. Nevertheless, there's a very interesting variation here, is to play g5 check. Then comes king f5, h6, rook h1, and king d6. Now there are two possible ways to play this position. What happens if you play rook e1 here? But then comes rook b8, so white tries to invade towards the king side. If king takes f4, then g6, and this is very interesting. And this is somewhat part of basic rook endgames that everyone should know. H takes g, h7, rook h1, h8 queen, rook takes, g5. This king is far away from this pawn, and it seems like you have to give this rook away for this, but no, king d5 is winning for white. Let's see how. King f3, rook f8 check, king e3, rook g8 waiting, and if you play king f4, then king d4, white gains the opposition and wins. After king d6, if you play rook a1, we saw rook e1, we saw this. Now play rook a1, then comes king e7. rook a6, king f7, rook g6. Now black is trying to create a fortress here, so better be careful. If black succeeds in creating a fortress, then that would be very difficult for white to go through. But rook d4 is a very good strategic move, because after king g4, king e7, rook a6, and after rook d6, there is absolutely no stopping for white king to come and support his pawns, because rook a7 check, king f6, and white is winning anyway. This pawn will drop. You will see this rook coming here and picking this up. This king is too far away. If king takes, then rook check will drive this king away. And you see h6 breakthrough and this pawn running through. So Karpov was getting very tricky here. After rook h4, Kasparov understandably plays f5, which was like a pragmatic judgment. A g5 would have been better, as we saw, but f5 isn't bad either. Rook h1 again, king d5, so he's bringing his king to support the pawn. Rook d1 check, rook d4 blocking the check, rook e1 cutting this king, king d6, rook e8. Obviously king g5 wouldn't have made much of a difference, king d7, and here he could have played king f7, try to protect the rook and possibly bringing king closer to his own king side, so that these pawns are easily be able to track down. But rook g8 and this connection was cut, because after h6 this pawn is looking like a thorn, as we saw in the previous game. King f7, rook c4, he's waiting, king f6, rook e4, so he cuts this king off so that this king doesn't come here. King f7, king d6, and now the rook is ready to come to the 7th rank. Rook e7 check, and once rook sits on g7, it's absolutely hopeless for black. Some moves were played, very tricky moves. Rook d8 check, king c5, and now rook d5 check. Well, if you take the rook on d5, that would be stalemate. Bye bye, thank you. Well played, but better luck next time. So after rook d5, Kasparov plays king c4. Karpov plays rook d4 again. And again the same situation. Better luck next time, buddy. If rook takes d4, then this is also stalemate. But after king c3, Anatoly Karpov, the world champion, resigned the game. And why did I say the world champion? Because what happened after the game was pretty much extraordinary. The match was controversially aborted and Karpov was awarded the match. The match should have been continued with 5-3 and Karpov had to win his 6th one, but it was aborted. And Kasparov was playing fantastic chess in last 20 games. He won 3 games in last 20 games and didn't give Karpov his 6th one. So that was the reason. That's why Kasparov is a tough cookie to crack, and that's the reason why people consider him the greatest chess player of all time. And looking at this game, the first thing that I look at, if you play rook a4, then king comes to g3, supports this pawn and basically gobbles up this pawn because this rook has run out of checks. And now we are talking about the outside of this game. The match was aborted, Karpov was awarded the match, and the cited reasons were fatigue and mental exhaustion, but there were also some political affairs going on backstage in which I don't want to go. And afterwards the new match was scheduled in late 1985 with 24 series of 24 matches. The first to get 13 points or 12.5 points wins the game. Well, when will I get the time? I would like to review that one as well. Well, tomorrow there's a tournament, new tournament is starting in which several elite grandmasters would be taking part in the Lindres Abbey Rabbit tournament. I'll be reviewing those games as well. So you won't miss anything from my channel. That's it from my side from this 1984-85 World Chess Championship series of 48 games. I hope you liked the video. I hope you liked the series. Stay safe. Cheers. Bye. Best of luck.